And now, from beyond our dimension, this is the JeffMara podcast. Here's Jeff.
My guest is Suzanne Ross, creator of the Sedona Ascension Retreats, producer of Sci-Fi TV, and author of the Up Trilogy, Wake Up, Rise Up, and Lighten Up. Suzanne, welcome back. It's great to see you again.
Hi, Jeff. It's so great to see you. Thanks for having me back. I just love being on your show. It's so fun diving into these deeper conversations, exploring all things spiritual and metaphysical with you.
Well, I had a couple guests that were at your last retreat, and I admit that I wish I went. And it sounded like you guys had a great time.
We did have a great time. That event really exceeded all expectations. It was definitely the biggest event I've ever had. We sold out at over 700 seats, but we had Bashar, Daryl Anka channeling Bashar, which was really fun. Linda Moulton Howe bringing on the ET UFO intel, Anita Morjani as near-death experiencer, guest panels, performances by world champion Native American dancers. It was so much fun. Over 3 days, people went out on the land, vortex sites, and taught workshops. So it was really great. It was a super high vibe event, and everybody just had rave reviews. So yeah, thank you for bringing that up. It really filled my heart to see how much fun everybody had and how much they got out of it.
You know, I've had so many guests that live in Sedona that I feel like, I'm part of the community. I wish I lived there.
Well, that would be awesome for you to move here. And of course, I have an open door for any event that I have, Jeff. And hopefully you can come in March of 2025 because we're already planning that.
That would be great. Well, in this one coming up, it's all about transcendence. Why is that a significant focus for you this time?
Thanks for asking. Yes, I do have two events a year. The March one is around the spring equinox, and that's the Sedona Ascension Retreat, and it's a large conference. But I love having my smaller retreat that's more intimate in the fall equinox. It's really near and dear to my heart because the attendees really have an opportunity to connect one on one with the presenters, with each other, smaller breakout groups. We still go out on the land into the vortex sites and have workshops, but people really get to engage and drop into like an immersion. And so I call that the Sedona Transcendence Retreat because it is about this concept of transcendence, which for me is yes, in meditation, you can drop into a state where you're finding a sort of transcendent experience. Maybe you're feeling uplifted into a cosmic journey or a divine journey. But my goal with offering a transcendence retreat is more about people moving into a transcendent way of living and being. And I call it active transcendence. So you're in an uplifted and elevated state of living and being and breathing while feeling connected to all that is as an integral part of it, feeling a heart connection with others that you're with or that you encounter. And so that's what this event is about. It's like setting that intention to develop and sustain an active transcendent state.
Well, what kind of practices can people do to achieve that state?
And so it can start with sitting in stillness for a moment so that you can engage in breathing practices that allow you to connect into the spirit within you and all around you, to expand your heart, open your throat, open your third eye, right? Even open your crown so that you can create that connection. Tuning in to your root chakra so that you can connect into the heart of Mother Earth. And what you're trying to do with this is you're coming into the self-realization of your connection to the heart of Mother Earth, to the heart of the cosmos, to the divine source in such a way that you become sort of a light portal between the earth and the heavens. You see, so once you have sort of established this connection and this presence as a light portal between heaven and earth, then you start to expand. You can almost say that you're expanding your auric field that can connect now with the auric field of all living things and beings. Right. This can be really effective out in nature and a great place to practice that because out in nature, you're not distracted maybe by the sights and sounds of a busier, maybe city environment. And maybe initially you're developing this, but the idea is that you can sustain it, whether you're in a city environment or shopping at the grocery store, wherever you're at, right? You're in this state. But yeah, it's really a state of connection.
Well, can't people eventually move from just practicing it to a complete state of being or a way of life?
Yeah. I feel like after all these kind of decades of doing this myself, because it became such an integral part of my spiritual journey, Jeff, and I wrote about it in my book, Wake Up, and in my book, Rise Up, that it started with walking meditations because I don't know, I know there's many people who find it challenging to sit for long periods in stillness meditation.
Mhm.
And also in this day and age of busyness, we're also busy doing and producing and contributing, right, every day. And so I, for myself, am someone who's very active. I was a personal trainer for many years. I've always been very athletic and I love nature. So I was dying to get out on my nature walk every day and go walking with my dogs. And so for me, I wanted to develop an active, meditative state of living, breathing, and being on these walks out in nature. And I really was able to do that. And in creating that state with intention, okay, so it's about setting an intention that you're going to um, create this state, like I said, connecting to the heart of Mother Earth, expanding your auric field, expanding your heart, opening your throat and your crown, the intention to connect into the heart of the cosmos and the divine source, all of this intention. And there was prayers that I used. And for me at that time, this liberating prayer that's a part of Buddhism, particularly Kadampa Buddhism, and you can find it at kadampa.org, KADAMPA.org. This liberating prayer, and it was all about sort of that idea that you are connected here, grounded here on earth, but you're also opening to connect to the divine, but also to the divine that's within and all around you in your present environment, right? And they would have this practice of imagining golden light being poured into your crown from the heavens, going through your entire body, down through your feet. And this like idea that, this golden light is running through your entire being, activating a golden spark of light in every cell of your being. Suddenly you're like your golden light body walking through nature. That practice, Jeff, was really powerful for me.
So you were just kind of mentally saying this prayer while walking?
Over and again.
Hmm.
And in the prayer books that I got through kadampa.org, because I was very much immersed in Buddhism at that time, it's not just the liberating prayer. There's like a whole series of these prayers that you can say, but all of them are around the same concept of activating the divinity within humanity. It's like recognizing that you're both human and divine, and really embodying that divine aspect of who you truly are.
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned walking meditation because I like to go on morning walks and I've been looking and I kind of scroll through YouTube to listen to some sort of walking meditation, like as something guided, but I haven't found anything that I really like. Besides the one on kadampa.org, is there anything else that you have found that is, pretty successful for you?
You can actively run energy through the chakras, and certainly running energy, Jeff, has just been proven to be a really powerful practice. Some people also call it Kundalini awakening. They call it the sacred secretion practice. But the idea is that there is a sacred secretion that takes place when you activate the Kundalini energy in the root chakra. And the technique that I use is, of course, you do start by connecting, like imagining a cord of energy leaving your root chakra and spiraling into the earth beneath you to connect into the center of the earth, which you might call the heart of Mother Earth. And that keeps you grounded so that when you start to move energy up through your chakras, that you stay grounded and centered into the earth. And so then, as you activate that Kundalini energy in the root, and I'm happy to share the meditations that I have available for download on my website. But it's really imagining those two serpents at the base of the spine. You might just call them cords. I'll refer to them as serpents, but it's that caduceus symbol of the American Medical Association, right?
Mhm.
With the two serpents leaving the spine and ascending and braiding the spine and coming together over the crown. One is electric blue as the electromagnetic energy, and one is magnetic red as the magnetic energy. So it's together the electromagnetic energy, one red, one blue, ascending and braiding your spine through each of the chakras. And as you ignite that by imagining these two serpents intertwined at the base of the spine and spinning, then then you can, on the inhalation, pull those two serpents up through the root chakra. And you can literally imagine the heads of the serpent emerging through that spinning red wheel and ascending and braiding the spine, penetrating the next wheel, and then pulling it up through that wheel. Of course, you can make this as simple as just moving up the spine with that electromagnetic energy, or you can, go into a deeper process of clearing each chakra and exploring that level of consciousness. That might be better in a meditative state of stillness and seated. But for the active state, you just want to ignite that Kundalini energy to release that sacred secretion, to surge up the spine, right, and explode through your crown. And, it's just quite the transcendent experience.
Mm. Is there a way that we can transcend our abilities to be more creative, more loving?
Absolutely. And so now we get into the ability to transcend your ego. And I know that's probably a trigger word, or like a powerful word, ego, because it's so all inclusive of just the ego as your identity, right? Your ego, your sense of presence, of who you are in this physicality, in other words. But the ability to overcome the limiting beliefs of your ego, right? That want to keep you small, that want to tell you you're only capable of so much, right? It's the ability to transcend that and move into limitlessness with this inner knowing that anything is possible, and that you are an infinite, eternal being who is an aspect of the divine creator. And as such, you can create at will anything you desire. It's the belief that that is possible for you. And in this state of transcending the limiting beliefs of the ego, you then realize the vastness of who you are as an eternal being. And so these are the kind of concepts, Jeff, that, you know, repeating mantras over and again, like, I am that I am eternal, I am immortal, I am an aspect of the divine source. The more that you repeat these affirmations, the more that you start to believe that, and then the more you can expand into it.
Now, besides putting on the event, you also are a speaker there. And I was looking at your website about the event, and it says that you're going to be speaking about the Ascension timeline. Is that
Yes,
correct?
thank you for looking at the site,
Mhm.
SedonaTranscendenceRetreat.com, because
Mhm.
I do present, offer workshops at my own events. And I feel like we are in such a critical time right now, especially, and I'm sure that you've heard this from other guests or seen it on YouTube, really, the solar storms that, scientists, astronomers are really confirming right now about these coronal mass ejections that we're just getting bombarded with on a regular basis. We just came through a series of solar storms where these coronal mass ejections were really measured. And what they're doing is they're really raising the level of radiation. They're supercharging our atmosphere, really just catapulting that Schumann frequency to levels that we've never seen before. And what I feel is that it's facilitating our ascension in a way that it's supercharging our beings, right? It's increasing our light quotient, the light frequency of our beings. I believe that the universe is intelligent. I mean, right? And that this is intentional, and that the beings who are supporting the awakening and ascension of humanities are sending these coronal mass ejections onto our planet right now. In you could say escalating the ascension timeline, intentionally increasing the frequency of humanity for this accelerated timeline.
So when you speak of this timeline, do you have a time frame when we are going to completely move into the 5D realm?
I mean, it would be anybody's guess, about that. And the different interviews I've engaged in with people who seem to be on the leading edge of this ascension consciousness, some had been saying like 2024 is a critical year in numerology, right? It's 8, it's a gateway year, 9 being sort of a completion year, and then 2026, which then equals 10, 1, which reduces to 1, is a new beginning. And so I and others would only be guessing, but to say that it's possible that 2026 could be a very um, transformational year where there could be some mass event that could change everything for humanity, whether that would be, say, a visitation from our
Mhm.
galactic brothers and
Yeah.
sisters, or, and not to, I never ever want to trigger any fear in anybody, but it could be some global climactic event, but something that makes humanity come together in this sudden realization that we are one family sharing one planet. You see it in localized tragic events all the time. Like, recently there's been some major tornadoes
Yeah.
in the Midwest, and you hear people all the time saying, I didn't even know my neighbor. And now this entire community has pulled together to support one another. And so, not sure what that is all about. My AI, what? Thumbs down on that? Whatever.
I think that's like whenever you have a certain gesture, Zoom does that.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah, and whatever you do, like I think if I go like this for and hold it for a second, watch. I think here it goes. It'll do that.
How funny.
Right. So
Yeah. So, anyways, I mean, you really see how some global event, I mean, even COVID, I think you kind of saw that with COVID, how
mhm,
people came together
yeah.
in a global, event to support one another and or to just have this realization that we're all going through something together. And it does create a greater sense of unity and connection. And so, I'm just going to throw out there that there's a possibility that 2026 could be a really transitional year for humanity.
Well, I think some of my UFO guests talk about that there's going to be perhaps some sort of contact in 25 or 26, and even including Daryl Anka or Bashar, I think says 2025, 2026.
And I really like what Bashar had said, and combining that with what a presenter at my event, Ann Tucker, revealed to Alan Steinfeld and I on his New Realities TV podcast yesterday about what she's calling, or her angels that she's channeling are calling the Great Rift. And I had
Hmm.
never heard this before,
I haven't
but
either.
it also aligned with 2026. And this great rift that she's referring to is about the same thing, some cataclysmic, some, earth shifting event that brings humanity together. And nothing's ever the same again after that. Right. But she talked about, it was amazing interview. And I don't know if you've interviewed Ann Tucker. She's been on all these major podcasts.
Hmm.
But she's, what she brings through in these angelic transmissions is really mind blowing. So she was saying that she believes, even as of 2 weeks ago, that things have changed about where people go when they die in this sort of what the Bible might refer to as a rapture, where they're raptured and they're almost put into what you might call a staging area. She called it something much better. Like she would say, if you're Christian, you're going to go to this incredible cathedral. If you're Muslim, you might go to this beautiful mosque. Like whatever your belief systems are going to attract you to this beautiful place, but that it's sort of a staging area to keep you staged there before like this global rapture where people are like almost scooped up by the angels to be, to transcend into this place that resonates with the frequency of where they're at. And Bashar, like in an interview Alan and I did with Bashar, Daryl Anka channeling Bashar in Vegas, he was saying that um, sort of this idea that people are being staged in almost what you might call like a train station, and that eventually like these trains are all going to leave from the station and go in different directions to places that are resonant with each individual's frequency. In other words, where they're at in their level of consciousness is going to determine, what train they get on and where they go, because the earth sphere, let's say, that they end up on will have to be resonant with where they're at in their consciousness, if that makes sense.
It does. And what's interesting is I've had a couple near death experiencers comment that they were in somewhere like a train station while being
Wow.
on the other side.
Wow. I love that. And in fact, I think Anne even mentioned something like that. Like she had heard of people who actually, in their near death experience, were on a train looking out the window. Gosh, remember that one movie back in the day? Oh my gosh, it's an older movie. And I think, um, oh, maybe it was Glenn Close and Albert something. I mean, they're older movie stars, but he died and he was going to the other side and they were all getting on trains.
Hmm.
They were all getting on trains and he's sitting on this train and he's looking out the window and he passes a train. I think it was Glenn Close and she was sitting on the train and they saw each other, but they ended up in the same destination where they were in the afterlife.
Was that somewhere in time?
Oh, maybe.
I'm not sure, but maybe.
Yeah, no, I think somewhere in time might have been. I can think of those two actresses. There was an actor and an actress in that. I don't think it was somewhere in time, but anyways, I can't think of the name of it. But it was that train concept that you get on a train and it takes you to your afterlife destination where you have your life review then, and like watching a movie.
Well, talking about transcendence, after we make go through the ascension, we'll all be in permanent transcendence.
That's the idea, right? And in that state, you're peaceful, blissful. Your heart is so expanded that you're totally empathic in such a way that you can telepathically communicate with your brothers and sisters, in love with one another, in love with all that is the animal and plant kingdom, right? Like it all sounds wonderful. But we don't have to wait. That's the idea. We don't have to wait for that. We can practice those ways of living and being in an active transcendent state right here and now. And that's really the goal of this Sedona Transcendence Retreat in September is to bring together those people who can teach those ways of channeling, connecting. Interestingly enough, Jeff, for the first time ever, I'm having mediums
Hmm.
at this event. Just like in March of this year, and I had the near death experiencers because I always try to, I got to change it up.
Yeah.
Need different people and different themes because I get a lot of repeat guests and I want to
Mhm.
give them a new and different show. And so not only will there be psychics and channelers demonstrating their gifts and teaching their techniques, I'm going to have mediums. And we just had this medium on an interview that's going to be there named Brandy Wells. And she calls herself the breakthrough medium. She's actually been involved in paranormal investigations on like the TV series The Haunted. And so we're trying to actually set up a paranormal investigation here in Sedona as part of our September event for Brandy to go and connect with those on the other side. But she does like gallery readings. We're also having Kelly Palmatier, a medium, who also does gallery readings, where you like John Edwards, right?
Mhm.
You're on stage and you have this large audience in front of you and you're tapping into different. But I felt like mediums who are on the other side coming, I mean, sorry, those who have passed on who are on the other side coming through these mediums with messages for their loved ones who are still here bring through such powerful messages. And again, like near death experiences, it's proof of afterlife and it's proof that consciousness is streaming, right? And as such, we can connect into those who are still, in a sense, alive and well on the other side, communicating through these mediums. So I'm excited about that and what they have to say about these other realms that they're experiencing existing on.
Well, I saw that you're going to have Vincent Genna on, and I've had him as a guest, and he was great. He was very dynamic.
Isn't he? I sent out an email blast and I named it Vivacious Vincent. Yes, he is. His personality is just huge, right? He's so excited and so enthusiastic. And
Mhm.
I think he's so sincere and authentic. And I feel really blessed to have Vincent. And again, yeah, he's a channeler as well, but I think he also does some mediumship, but he's teaching his techniques just like the others are too, so that we can all expand our awareness and connect in consciousness to higher realms, interdimensional realms. And I think that's the big part of ascension and transcendence.
Are you a medium or do you channel at all?
So back in around 2012 through even up to 2018, okay, I spent over 5 years really developing my ability to channel. I went to back in 2012, I met a gal, Janet Myatt, who is a contributor to my book Wake Up, to teach me how to channel. She was channeling Saint Germain and others at the time, and I was the recipient of some of those channelings, and she taught me techniques for channeling that allowed me to start channeling. And I was practicing and practicing. I also used the techniques that Carla Ruker used in the Law of One series when she was channeling Ra, because in the first book of the Law of One series, they lay out how they got Carla Ruker into a state where she could channel Ra. And so I practiced that state as well as these techniques Janet was teaching me. And spontaneously one day, I just started automatic writing. But it was laborious because it was these little scribbles that would be just like one word on a complete 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. So I was like, well, that is too time consuming. And so then practicing I felt confident that if other people could channel, that I could. And since one day I started spontaneously channeling, and it was a voice that was coming through me. It was a lower voice with a strange accent, and the words were coming out of my mouth in answer to questions that I had. And I knew that I wanted to be able to transcribe these messages that were coming through me. So I started using Dragon Naturally Speaking voice recognition software so that my computer would type what was coming through my mouth. And then I could convey these messages, and it became the foundation for both of my books, Wake Up and Rise Up. And so I wanted to share the messages that were coming through me in response to the questions that I was asking in my books. And I did that, type of channeling. I channeled for others. I still channel for others today in, in sessions where messages come through me for them about where they're at on their journey and the questions they might have. But I never, wanted to be known as a channeler like we know these other people who are well-known channelers. I knew that wasn't my calling, but I definitely went through a period of channeling on a regular basis. And I became well aware who it was who was channeling through me as well, because you could tell by their personality. So yes, I did that. Now, mediumship, I've had experiences after my mother-in-law passed, after my father passed, but in sessions with people that I do here live in Sedona and on Zoom, I started to have experiences of their past loved ones showing up. And I didn't feel called, Jeff, to make that a part of what I do, to be a medium and to communicate with past loved ones. For one, you can only do so much and have so much in your repertoire of what you do and offer, right? And I just made a choice that I didn't want to invite that into my sessions. Although I've seen totally embodied spirits of past loved ones become present in the room when I've been in session with someone. But because I made that conscious choice, it's not a focus of my sessions.
Suzanne, what is your purpose this incarnation?
Thank you for asking that, Jeff. One of the major things I'm called to do are these events. And I also create television networks where my colleagues can have, videos on a platform. I give a stage as a platform for my colleagues to stand on and present. So I'm very much someone who likes to shine a light on others and highlight, what they're doing, contributing, and offering in the world. But then I myself personally feel very called to do session work with people. But this session work is more focused on what you might call returning to wholeness, where I do timeline regressions, where people can connect into who they're being in other 3D timelines. Other people might call them past life regressions, but we also connect into future timelines where they might be being in another higher realm as a higher dimensional being on another star system. I call these multidimensional soul reunions. What I discovered in doing this type of work is people are reuniting with these fragmented soul aspects of who they're being in multiple timelines and dimensions. And as they do, then they return to wholeness. They are able to tap into the gifts, skills, and abilities of who they're being as multiple personalities. When they are connected into higher dimensions of who they're being, which is more advanced and intelligent consciousness, they actually have the ability to ignite dormant DNA strands, to tap into higher gifts and abilities. It's about becoming all that they are, all that they can be, infinite potential as a multidimensional being. And so that's really what my sessions are about with people. I also do spiritual counseling. So if somebody is going through a period of dark night, or they have questions about, where what their soul's true purpose is, or maybe healing a relationship that they're having trouble with at the time, people often come to me when they're at a crossroads. Maybe they're feeling like the life they're living now isn't aligned with their soul's true purpose, or the relationships that they're in, maybe aren't aligned. Then they come to me, and, we can then have a breakthrough session where they see the light of another way of living and being, where they can express their soul's true purpose or mission. And then, even like on a very practical level, we'll strategize how they can build a bridge between who they're being now and who they're maybe envisioning themselves as serving their soul's true purpose.
In the beginning, I mentioned that you are the producer of Sci Spy TV, and I think you're going to be getting involved in something that's called Spy Roll, which is spirituality and religion and merging them two. Can you tell my audience about that?
You're such a great interviewer, Jeff,
Yeah,
and thank you
thank you.
so much for remembering the Spy. And then, yes, for the first time ever. And it's funny because I even get a little nervous. My palms feel a little sweaty
Hmm.
about announcing this, but I really have to go with what's coming through me, what I feel compelled to move into. And it becomes such a calling that it's almost not a choice. It's like something that, I feel so passionate about that I have to do. And I feel it's really timely as well. So, yes, I had a and not that I'm not interested in science anymore, but I was very interested for the last 10 years in quantum physics and, biology, and all of the ways that science and scientific discoveries support like spiritual revelations, like how quantum physics supports parallel realities, and how many spiritual practitioners are doing like multidimensional soul reunions. Like, really fascinated by quantum physics and how it relates to spirituality. So that's where science and spirituality for the genre sci-spy came into being. And I had that TV network for many years. Just recently, I put a maintenance screen up on it because I wasn't bringing in new content for the subscribers. And so I just, put a maintenance screen up on that. Then I was seated in meditation one day, And this new genre, spiral, came into my vision. And it was like this epiphany of spirituality, spy, and religion, roll, spiral. And then I was like, whoa, spiral, like the spiral being the fundamental pattern of creation, everything spiraling out from the center. And how wild that spiral means spiral, the shape. And what better shape to unify spirituality and religion? And
Mm.
I know it's edgy, but I feel called to break through the barriers that separate spirituality and religion and to overcome the misconceptions that the church may have about spiritual practitioners and what spiritual people may have about the church, and to try to find common ground to unite us, to bring more global unity and peace and harmony at that time, at this time.
I think it's great. And I think that we kind of do that on my show quite a bit. Like, for example, somebody will talk about the Holy Ghost, and we'll talk about it as a religious point, but then we'll say, well, maybe the Holy Ghost is this unified field of information that near-death experiencers tap into while they're on the other side and know everything. Unfortunately, they don't bring it back with them, though. But that's
Talk
just,
about transcending
yeah,
spirituality and religion as concepts, even. Here you are on the other side in the omnipresence of all that is divine love and light. There's no division, there's no labels. There you are in the presence of God, love, Jesus, whomever you feel connected to, right? I mean, I have to tell you, when my father passed, I was living in this small town called Linden in just outside of Calgary, Alberta. My parents are Canadian, all my relatives are Canadian. And my father passed there in this small rural farming area just outside of Calgary, Alberta. My mother was born in this town, Linden, which is a Mennonite town primarily. And my mother's mother was a Mennonite. And so my mother was attending this Mennonite church. Now, she wasn't a communal Mennonite because there's Mennonites who live in communal compounds and there's Mennonites who have their own homes. They may or may not dress in, the traditional Mennonite dress, but, the community goes to this Mennonite church. And so I was staying with my mom and dad until he passed, and then I stayed with my mom for quite a while after that. And I you're gonna laugh about this as an interviewer because I was interviewing people on a regular basis, and I'm like, who am I gonna interview, Jeff, in this
mhm,
small little Mennonite town in the middle of nowhere, farming community? So guess who I interviewed? I didn't record it. The pastor of the Mennonite church. So I'm like, who's the most spiritual person like in this town I could interview?
sure.
And so I knew, like, because he said, yeah, I'll sit down with you and talk to you in my office. And again, it was one of those things where my palms got kind of sweaty. I was like, what do I ask a Mennonite pastor? And I thought, God, I better brush up on the Bible because I had listened to the Bible on audio tape years before, because I mean, it's one of the most influential books of all time.
Mhm,
And I wanted to know what are the contents, even though my family didn't go to church or wasn't religious growing up. And so I listened. I think it was Earl Jones. Well, that's not quite his name, but anyways, the guy who has the super low voice,
mhm,
and he narrated the Bible, and so it was fun to listen to him. So I had some familiarity. Particularly, I wrote in my book Rise Up. The beginning of my book Rise Up is about Genesis and the 7 days and the seven patterns of creation and the seven platonic solids. Then I started a podcast about the book of Revelations, right? John channeling Jesus and the revelations of Jesus Christ, the book of Revelations, and the book of John in the center of the Bible is what Carla Ruckert had the Bible open to when she channeled Ra. So I was familiar with sort of those three books of the Bible, but I thought, gee, I better, dive in and be a little bit more familiar with the Bible before I interview this or sit and have a discussion with this pastor. And so I did. And I started to think, like, when I was reading Genesis, gosh, this sounds like the story of the Sumerian clay tablets, where like Lord Enlil and Lord Enki are playing
Mhm.
out the scenes of the Nephilim. And, and there may be some truth to that, Adam and Eve being created and all of that taking place in this Garden of Eden, which may or may not have been in Mesopotamia, right? But then I started reading some of the other books, and I have to say, there is some really precious gems of wisdom and spiritual guidance in some of these, books throughout the Bible. Now, I have to say that, when I started to talk to Pastor Gary, and I'm in his house, so I'm not there to dispute anything. I'm there to learn and to
Mhm.
understand what his perspective is with total respect that I'm
Mhm.
in his house. Um, it was fundamentalist around this belief that everything came into being in one flash of light and God said, let there be light, maybe 10,000 or more years ago. Um, so, that's that belief. But, then going into this desire of his, and you could tell by his sermons on, on Sundays, that he really just wanted to convey the love of Jesus and that Jesus loves everyone and that we're all sons and daughters of God. And just to go out there and be the best person you can be every day, spreading the love, sharing your light. And they would have a little band that would play the guitar and sing, Jesus loves you. And you're just like, this is spiritual. I really enjoyed going to those sermons.
What's fascinating is the synchronicities that happen with my show because literally in the last 2 weeks, I've had two ex-Mennonite guests. One had a near-death experience, and the other one has just had some kind of a lifetime of paranormal experiences. But it's kind of a nice reminder from the other side that, hey, there are no coincidences.
That is uncanny.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Yes, thank you. That's divine synchronicity. You're flowing in it, my friend.
Mm-hmm.
We are all flowing in it.
Well, if people want to find out more about the event, should they go to the website? And if so, what is the name of the website again?
Thanks for asking. It's SedonaTranscendenceRetreat.com. Our retreat takes place September 19th through the 21st, right here in Sedona at the Global Center for Christ Consciousness. And we have, like I said, presentations and performances on stage, sound journeys, guided meditations, as well as indoor workshops and outdoor journeys. We are also having a CE5. I wish you
Oh,
could join
wow.
us for that,
That would be cool.
Jeff. So Lisa Royal Holt, who's been channeling the galactics for 40 years, she is going to be coming out and guiding this. Um, it's called CE5, Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind, right? Is what CE5 means. But you drop into this sort of meditated state where we're, intentionally telepathically communicating with the galactics. So we'll be having the CE5 experience as part of our event Under the Stars, guided by Lisa Royal Holt as well.
Will that be like out in Sedona, like out in the forest or in the mountains?
Yes, it'll be out under the stars, out in the Red Rocks. Yeah, phenomenal. We had this last September, guided by Ruben Langdon, the
Mm.
host of Interviews with Extra
Oh,
Dimensionals
wow.
on Gaia TV. He guided it last year in this same location,
Oh, that's
out in the
amazing.
Red Rocks under the stars.
That's amazing. I just had Ruben on a couple weeks ago.
It was getting weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ruben guided it. And he also hosted our guest panel, our Galactic Channelers guest panel in March.
Oh,
Yeah,
cool.
I love Ruben. He's cool.
He's great. Well, if people have questions about the event or any others, should they contact you through your website or another way?
I always invite people to just email me directly if they have any inquiries, and that's Suzanne at SuzanneRossTranscendence.com.
Okay. Do you have anything else that you're working on that you want people to know about?
Thanks for asking. My courses. So I felt inspired to create courses for people because I've been being asked for years to do this. So I started a new website. It's not up yet, but I'll give you the link where you can find my courses. I came up with the acronym SACRED, Spiritual Academy Courses and Resource for Enlightenment and Divinity. Sacred. And I have 3 courses currently: a Transcendence Guide course, a Spiritual Counselor course, and now an Intuitive Reader course. And you're certified through Sacred. So you receive a certification at the end of the course. My Transcendence Guide is 6 months, but the Spiritual Counselor one's only 3 months. But I'm excited about those courses, and you can find them under courses on my website, SuzanneRossTranscendence.com.
All right. Well, before we wrap it up, can you leave us with one last positive message?
Yes. We are all aspects of the divine. You are both human and divine. The divine is within you, as you, and it's all loving and it's all light. Place your hands on your heart and feel your heart expand with a divine love for all that is, and know that you are an integral part of it. Just go out, spread the love, shine your light, and you will experience a transcendent way of living and being in one with all of your beautiful brothers and sisters on this home that we share, Mother Earth. I love you. I bless you. Mwah. Namaste.
Suzanne, thank you for your message and thank you for coming and sharing with us today.
Thank you, Jeff. I so appreciate you and all that you do.
Thank you.